it says like recording is okay. Fair enough. Yeah, I think it's recording. Okay, thank you. All right. So that's one of the case study where we implemented in this case. So I just wanted to repeat that. So we implemented for this case study. I was talking about uh, AI against phishing. Phishing. So we implemented this called tool called Proof Point Email Protection. Yeah. So and it's called abnormal security. Yeah. So this is a tool that we have implemented there, which basically analyzed the metadata of the sentence pattern, and then it kind of avoided the nonsense that's coming out from the other non the true email or genuine email, the true emails, right? And the success rate was very drastic. Within weeks we were able to kind of drop it by the phishing success rate was dropped by 95% in that. Okay. All right. So now coming back to the some of the challenges that we see in AI adoption in its own, like I would say one is the bias, right? So as AI models can inherit bias from training the data. Okay. So platforms like Google Veritas AI, yeah, so which offers the tools to detect and mitigate this particular bias. Okay. So called as algorithmic bias because it depends, it basically inheriting based upon the AI model, based upon the training data that we give, based upon the test data that we give. So all these are combined together. And then these platforms, like the tools, like the popular tools like Google Veritas AI, is able to kind of detect and mitigate those bias within the systems, right? And the next one is the privacy concerns, right? So the tools like Privitar, and which anonymize the data to ensure compliance within the regulations like GDPR. So now coming with the DPDP Act in India, so I'm sure that this Privita is also kind of a very relevant that can be implemented within the organizations, right? So what I would also call it as the kind of cost that is involved, especially when you're doing the cloud-based platforms like AWS God Duty, which offers a cost-effective AI capabilities. So if someone is looking, especially from the cost and complexity perspective, it's this AWS God Duty is one of the best tool that can has a vast AI capabilities, and it can be implemented as part of the cloud anyway. So right, it's a very any most of the organizations either they use the AWS or Microsoft, etc. and all that. So it's one of the best tool, I would say. Coming back to the upskilling things, so upskilling is very important. Upskilling through certifications from organizations like IEEE, which can offer very good platform and the content that can really bring the professionals to bridge the talent gap between the organizations that they're looking out for when the new tools or being it from the that is available in the market or based upon the experience that people coming from the security perspective. Yeah. So as I mentioned, the privacy, data privacy is a very important thing, and it's going to come up very soon as part of the DPDP Act from the India perspective, not only from India but other locations as well. So it's very important, and I would really urge everyone to look into that aspect as well. Right. So while these challenges are significant, there are also opportunities for organizations that are willing to innovate. Okay. So it's not one stop for everyone to, okay, I have this tool, I'm safe. No, so security is evolving. Similarly, the attackers are also upskilling themselves. So there are good actors, bad actors. So we need to be very vigilant in terms of like how so how we should be upskill ourselves. Okay. um, so I always mention this to my team as well, right? So uh, if an attacker is attacking planning an attack, the organizations or the tools or the systems that we have, so we should be have the same kind of mindset think like an attacker, and then protect your systems. Yeah, so that's very important. All right. So now coming back to the zero-day threat detection, how do we stay ahead in the scope? Uh, Everyone knows that zero-day threat is basically the vulnerabilities exploited before a patch is available, right? So zero-day threat exploit vulnerabilities that have no known patches, right? So tools like I'll put it across here, right? So zero-day. Uh, Yeah, so I see Ramesh. So in Azure side, any similar tool functionality like AWS Cloud. So I have not explored much in the Azure space, Ramesh. So, but I can get back to you. But definitely there are security tools that are available. But I'm not sure whether it is again how efficient from an AI perspective on that side. Yeah. All right. So from the zero-day threat, the tools that I would mention is one is the Tenable Nexus. Okay, uh, Tenable Nexus, yes, and the other one I called as Rapid and Expose. Okay, so these are the two tools that can protect, or proactively scan systems to identify potential weak points before the attackers do. Yeah. So as I mentioned before, if someone is planning to if there is an attacker attacking systems, we should be well ahead of that. So the 24/7 kind of support, or 24/7, the AI monitoring tools are very efficient. Just tenableness and rapid expose, which can proactively scan the systems and can protect before an attacker attacks the systems. For example, during a recent project where I was involved, an AI-based solution was flagged anonymous data movement. Okay, so what we did was a zero-day vulnerability being exploited at that point in time. So this proactive detection tools like enableness and rapid cyber expose, which save the organization from potential catastrophic breach. Yeah. So this is one experience that I can share here. And coming back to the AI and cybersecurity mesh architecture, which is very important, I take little time over here to kind of briefly go through it. So what you see here is from a definition perspective, um, you can read over here, but I just wanted to focus on what is important here in this slide. The cyber security mesh is a flexible, scalable security framework, which is basically designed to protect the assets from a decentralized environment. Okay, so it's basically, I would call it as like a shift from a traditional security model where we had fixed the perimeter and to a more adaptive approach. Okay, so AI plays a vital role here in terms of authenticating in real time, especially on the behavior analysis that we spoke about earlier. And imagine an organization where employees work from home, right? So we've seen during the COVID times and all, if the organization using the satellite offices or coffee shops, this was very drastically brought the ways of working, the change in ways of working during the COVID and post-COVID. Still, some organizations do that. So how do you secure such a dispersed network? Okay, that's where the cybersecurity mesh comes in. Okay, so AI plays a very critical role here, enabling the real-time identity verification, behavior analysis, automated threat detection, etc. So in this space, especially the AI and cyber security, I'm just mentioning the tool name here, uh, cyber security mesh architecture. So the tools like Okta, Identity Cloud, okay, Okta Identity Cloud, which basically can integrate with AI-driven anomaly detection, and which basically ensures the continuous validation of users and devices. Okay. Similarly, platforms like Zscaler, everyone knows that. So provide the AI-powered zero trust solutions, ensuring which basically I would say that every access request is verified and logged. Okay. I would like to share one example or incident. I mean, mostly it has come in the news as well. How safe? So we all travel, right? So we all travel to different locations by flight, or we stay in hotels, etc., and all that. And nowadays, what is also happening, because increase in the risk and the threat, especially in the ransomware or phishing or all this cyber threat, what is also happening is we normally, in the flights also we are getting this, where we can charge your mobile phones, etc., and all that. So be very careful and vigilant when you're charging your phone directly to an USB port. Okay, so nowadays you don't need a charging point, etc., but the charging point itself has a USB port. So do you know that if that is if a hotel, or if any, the public places like airports and all, when they are providing such a facility, we should be very vigilant in terms of like how we are being connected. Who knows, there is some person in the back end but using accessing your phone when you're connecting your mobile to a USB port. So for us, it is just a charging mechanism, but there is someone who is actually extracting the data, or putting something vulnerability in your system or in your mobile or whatever you're using, right? So so that's basically you should actually look into the perspective, like how easy, how difficult one is actually looking into, from a security perspective. So which is, I would say, be vigilant in terms of what you're using, where you're using your data points or your charging stations, etc., and all that. Okay. All right. So now, uh, coming back to this particular point, this framework is basically this framework is basically effective against the lateral movement attacks. Okay, where it's basically one side, you are actually attackers move within the network, and the AI ensures that ensures, like, it's basically, I would call it as one layer of breach. Okay, so ensure that it's being basically the data is being secured, the data is being secured, and you also have the multiple layers of defense. Okay, so that is something which I would strongly recommend to everyone when you are actually accessing public hotspots or public network systems, and etc., and all that, where for us it might be a simple access point, but actually there is someone actually reusing our data there. Okay, all right. So now I see a question here. Okay, so Nessus and Rapid 7 is detective solution right now, right? How it will prevent the 0-day attack? Okay, so let me put it this way. Uh, you're absolutely correct. Okay, so Nexus 7 and Rapid 7 are primarily detective solutions. However, they can't directly prevent 0-day attacks, but they can indirectly help you in terms of proactive risk detection, right? So by identifying and fixing the known vulnerabilities, so they reduce the overall attack surface by leaving the fewer entry points for exploration, etc., and all that. uh, Platforms like Rapid7 Insight DR and Next Expose, okay, now they are incorporating some of the AI-driven behavior analysis, okay, that can detect anonymous potential signs of zero-day exploits, which can be an unusual activity that they may foresee. Okay, uh, so truly, to tackle zero-day attacks, solutions like dark trace, silence, or endpoint detection and response are more effective because they monitor for behavior and not just signatures. Okay, so to answer the question, uh, as I said, like it may not be a direct a prevent of 0-day attack, but it can indirectly provide you sufficient resolutions in terms of how to be proactive in terms of risk reductions, or be it by the behavioral analysis, etc., and all that. Okay. I hope this answered your question. Especially if you look from the prioritization for response, right? So Nexus and Rapid7, they basically that integrate with security, SIM, okay, so security information and event management systems, where AI tools can flag unusual patterns as well. Okay, so that is another way yeah, that can consider. Yeah, yeah, we can call it as a dark gray in this space as well. Yeah. All right. So now coming back to the future trends in AI cybersecurity. So we will see that how anonymous threat detection systems that's going to head in the years to come. So as AI is moving towards fully autonomous systems like platforms like Vectra AI, so this Vectra AI are already using the machine learning, capabilities to identify and respond to the threats without human intervention. Yeah. So so here the name I would call it as Vectra AI as the tool uh, that is basically used for autonomous threat detection. Yeah. So this is a tool that basically used for autonomous threat detection. So from that perspective, and explainable AI called XI is one of the biggest barrier to AI adoption in trust. Okay, so it's basically from the trust perspective. So especially the EAI or XAI tools, like the tools like XAI, we call it as Fiddler, Fiddler AI, which makes basically the possible to understand why an AI system flagged something as a threat. Okay, so that's building the confidence in this system. So it basically does the analysis of whether this is really a threat, or whether it also gives an explanation or description or definition details, more information about why this is a potential threat, why it is not a potential threat, and it also helps us to take some of the decisions in that perspective. Okay, so this is a very good tool called Fiddler AI. And the next one we have is the AI-driven quantum security. So as quantum computing evolves, the new evaluation or the new encryption vulnerabilities, I would call it as, will arise drastically. Okay, so post quantum, we call it as the cryptography, which I very much focused on that, which is very important, which combined with AI will be the key to staying secure. Okay, especially from the quantum security perspective, we have not have or I have not seen a tool that can actually beat the quantum from the quantum security perspective. But what I foresee is very strongly the cryptography plays an important role in the quantum space. Okay, so that is something very important to look into that perspective. And the last one I have here is the collaborative defense networks, where AI will increasingly enhance or enable the organizations to share the real-time threat intelligence. Okay, so when I say uh, the real-time threat intelligence, uh, intelligence. Okay, the tools like Threat Connect. So the tools like Threat Connect are already fostering the different collaborative ecosystems in the world. Yeah. So the many organizations, they wanted to be focused on what's happening, whether it is their attack is happening currently, or what is the kind of, you remember we're talking about how we will be one step ahead before the attacker attacks the systems, right? So this is one of the great tool that we call it as like Threat Connect. Okay. Right. So now coming back to a very important point here, especially the emerging trends and innovation, connecting with the previous slide. I'm going to take a little bit of time more here to go into a deep understanding of all these four concepts. Okay. This particular slide highlights the emerging trends that are there in the innovations that is happening within the AI space, and what is the significant advancement happening in the cybersecurity area as well. Right. So one is the behavior analytics. So as AI is revolutionizing the threat detection through behavior analytics, instead of relying on static rules, AI learns is basically learning from the normal behavior of a user. Okay, how does what are the how does a normal human being when he's interacting with the systems, how it is being managed, etc., and all that. Like basically from the behavior, from the user perspective, from the device perspective, or from the system perspective. And when it detects anomalies like employee accessing some of the sensitive data uh, at an odd hours, like say for example, if an organization's timing is like say 9 to 5, if someone is accessing a data at around say 2 a.m., right? So that is not a normal behavior, right? So that is not someone is accessing a confidential data. Someone is accessing a system where it has the multi-factor authentication, etc., and all that, and that person is accessing around like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., which is not happening across the organization because organization like, working from 9 a.m. to 5 a.m., right? So that's where it flags it as a potential threats, and an etiquette is being raised, and it's being sent to the security team or the cyber defense team, etc., and all that. Okay, so that's we call it as the behavior and analytics. So tools, especially in this behavior and analytics, uh, especially the behavior analytics, uh, the tools like Exabeam uh, and Dark Trace. Okay, so you remember this dark trace. Okay, so these are very important and very popular tools that's been used across the organizations. So we see that in couple of slides as well. So when I say the dark trace, so this also one of the these are some of the tools that are excel in this area. So for example, like dark trace can detect insider threats, or which can or let's say that if there is any account that has been compromised. Okay, in terms of by the behavior of the user, or by you know by from an actions of a users that is not supposed to happen, etc., and all that. Okay, so that's one thing that I will talk about from a behavioral analytics. And coming back to the threat hunting, this involves the active searching of the hidden threats and vulnerabilities, I would say, right? So what it means is, let's say the AI powered tools which are basically enhancing this particular threat hunting is by using the automating the analysis of data sets, because the data sets has the huge potential to manipulate as well, right? So how do you kind of automate those analysis of the data sets? Uh, uh, Basically, that that analysis will help us to identify the patterns that could signify whether an attack is going to happen, or whether it's something has already happened, kind of thing. So it's basically from a threat hunting perspective, these automation tools are very important. And from the threat hunting tools, uh, platforms like, I would say, CrowdStrike. Okay, CrowdStrike, Falcon, as I mentioned earlier, and Microsoft Sentinel. Okay, which basically assist the analyst by correlating the indicators of there is any compromise that is happening. So sometimes we also call it as IOCs. Okay, and which basically reduces the maneuver. So these tools allow the security team to really hunt the threats and in real time, or also minimize uh, the time that attackers attack in the system into the system. Okay, be it from networking, or be it from the any of the system that is connected over the internet. Okay, all right. So the next important is the automated patching. I would call this as one of the most critical, but I've seen drastically it is overlooked in many of the cyber security domains, right? So AI, if you implement AI in this automated patching, that will drastically improves the automated patching, which basically identifies the vulnerabilities, and it also deploys the fixes without any manual interventions, or someone notifying, hey, you know what, this system is being going to compromise, or this is the incident that has happened, fix that particular incident, fix that particular issue. So that way, that's the power of AI in security, playing an important role in the automated patching, right? Um, so in real world use cases, what I remember is that during the recent ransomware attack, in one of the organizations based out of Sweden, the automated patching enabled that Swedish telecom company into the close vulnerability, critical vulnerability within hours. Okay, so preventing lateral movement to the malware. Okay, so one incident. So there are many tools also available in this space. I would call it as, especially when it comes to the uh, uh, some examples I can say here is this Qualysys patch management, or IBM Big Fix, which is basically the tools that leverage the AI and which can potentially, reduce the vulnerabilities or the severities that might be occurring. Right. Okay. Uh, right. Okay, so there's a question from Ramesh, like how can patch without testing in a lower environment, right? Okay, so patching uh, without testing in lower environment is basically a risky. I would say that, but in cases where the speed is critical, like for example, such as during 0-day vulnerabilities, if we take, organization adapts different approaches. Okay, so one approach, I would call it as the automated validation, as I mentioned, like using the AI-based tools like Qualys patch management or IBM Big Fix, okay, which automatically validates these test patches and on virtual sandbox, okay, which is sandbox environment before deploying it, okay. So we can actually simulate or take that particular incident and then do it those patches in the sandbox environment and then do that. The other approach I would remember is that the stacked patching, which basically deploys the patches in a phased rollout, okay, like for example, like starting from a non-critical systems to isolated environment, etc., and all that, which basically monitors the issues before applying to production. Okay, so that's one approach organizations takes, in when they want to test it in the lower environment. Okay, the third approach I remember is the emergency patches. Okay, so in extreme cases where the testing isn't possible, and it's real time, it's very urgent. So there, the what is this? What happens is that we apply the vendor related hot fixes or the temporary mitigations and immediate monitoring stuff using the tools like CrowdStrike, Falcon, or Microsoft Defender for endpoint. Okay, if I remember one more aspect of the approach to that question, Ramesh, is that the rollback mechanism. So always have a rollback plan in place. Okay, so tools like Ansible or Chef, which is basically ensures the patches can be reverted quickly if a issue arises. Okay, so that's basically that we can do from that perspective. Okay. All right. So now I see one more question. So let me see if I can answer that. How can how can how we can confirm deploying patches will not affect or crash the system? Okay. So very good question. So one way is, as I mentioned, is that to see that in the sandbox environment to kind of test it, how effective is the test that's going to happen and whether it's going to be efficient or not. I would also uh, do another thing like baseline comparison, right? So, like for example, like run pre-patch snapshots, like for example, VMware snapshots or Ansible playbooks, which can capture the system state and post deployment compare to detect the any anomalous that is happening. So that way, we can actually we can actually confirm whether my deployment is effective, is it reliable, is it secure, etc., and all that. Okay. So again, it all depends upon the what kind of tools, mechanisms that you are using, and also what kind of environment that you are looking into. Okay. All right. So coming back to the last one, which is basically the quantum computing, as I said, this is still in the early stages. Okay, but the potential to revolutionize this particular cybersecurity landscape, uh, quantum computing plays an important role as well. Okay, on one hand, quantum computing could break traditional encryption algorithms, um, which can be a massive threat. On the other hand, it can also offer an ability to develop the quantum resistant encryption mechanism as well. Okay, which can accelerate the threat detection process. Okay, so um, I'm also a research scholar. So what I do on especially on the AI security space in the research is that we are trying to, in some of the research projects and the companies like where I'm involved, we like for example like D-Wave systems, okay, or IBM Q. They are basically I'll mention it here. So it's called D-Wave systems and IBM Q, uh, are exploring these quantum capabilities to enhance the cryptography and cyber defense areas. Okay, the goal is to stay ahead of cyber criminals by preparing what would happen post quantum world before it arrives. Okay, so that's the kind of research that is happening in the outside world. Okay, as I said, it's too early to comment any specific things from the quantum computing perspective at this moment, but there are organizations, there are research institutes which are actively working especially on this quantum space, because the future of AI is just a beginning, and you see drastically change coming up from the quantum space as well. Okay, all right, so now let's move on to the next one, which is explainable AI in cybersecurity. um, One of the concern that I often hear is that how do we trust AI decisions, right? Uh, is this is where the explainable AI XI coming in, right? So XI tools basically ensures the transparency by explaining why certain actions were taken. For example, like if a AI blocks a user access, okay, so XI will detail the reasons. Hey, you know what? This person is not having this authorization, or he is accessing the system during the order was, etc. And all that. It gives us explainable, it gives us description, it gives us a clear explanation why this user is blocked. Okay, whether it is an as I said, unusual login location. Okay, so for example, every organization has multiple locations. So if an employee is based out of Bangalore and he's working for that particular location, right? And if the employee, let's say, accessing or moving to some other location, US or London, okay, and he's accessing this company laptop, and there's a notification that is going on. You know what? This IP address, it's not abnormal. It's not normal. It's abnormal, right? Because it's been tagged to the particular location by geography, but suddenly it's being changed to some other location. So that's where the explainable AI is going to give us a detailed description analysis of what is happening, why the user has been blocked from the system. Okay, so platforms like IBM Watson, OpenScale, which are basically pioneering in this area, which is making the very robust in giving the AI decisions, which is basically an auditable and understandable as well. Okay, so that tool is called uh, IBM OpenScale. This basically referring the tool that can give us from the explainable AI in cybersecurity space. Okay, so the tool name is this. Okay, all right. So I remember working with one of the leading financial institutions where the IT team initially hesitated to deploy the AI because they feared that they thought like there may be more of that false positive things happening. So by integrating the tools like IBM Watson OpenScale, XI tool, we not only reduced those false positive, but also gains insight into the user behavior. Okay, which has drastically improved the overall security space as well. Okay, so that's the how powerful is XII or explainable AI. All right. Now the very important one, ethical AI in cybersecurity. So as we all know that AI is powerful, but with this great power comes is a great responsibility. All right. Ethical considerations are critical in AI deployment as well, right? So what I will say is that, for example, like bias in training data can lead into, like, for example, unfair outcomes, such as flagging a certain user's behavior disproportionately. For example, we spoke that about earlier, right? Again, some of the tools that we spoke about, like Google Veritox AI or the Privitar, etc., and all that, which are basically helped us to kind of mitigate this bias, especially in the training phase. Okay. All right. So now coming back to, as I said, like, the ethical AI is also important from a compliance perspective. So it comes from the GDPR or CCPA, etc. and all that. But how do we ensure those compliance? So that's where the PVTAR tool comes play, and which can anonymizingly sensitize the data before it's been processed in AI systems. Okay. So so that's how it is, and just trying to kind of see if I'm on top of the time. But yeah, I'll take few more minutes to share some of the important stuff. All right, so AI security tools. I'm going to share a couple of things. Some are freeware and some are paid tools, and what these tools are basically helpful or where it has been helpful. Okay, so where organizations looking to adopt this particular AI, everyone is very conscious about the cost, the investments, etc., and all that. But at the same time, how secure these tools are and how popular these tools are. So some of the tools I would call it as like the OpenAI Codex. Okay, while not strictly a security tool, I call it as, but it can be used to automate some of the repetitive security tasks. Okay, such as, for example, log analysis or script generation, etc., and all that. So there you can use this OpenAI Codex. Okay, and some of the other popular open source tools like Snort or OSSEC and Wazoo. So these are this has their different perspective, different users, etc. For example, Snort, which is basically used for open source intrusion detection system, so that monitors the traffic in real time, right? So Wazoo is basically a comprehensive security tool. I would call it as like it's a platform that basically integrates the threat detections and complaints management or incident response, etc., and all that. Okay, and this OSEC, I really love this tool because it's a host-based intrusion detection system, which is basically ideal for monitoring the server level activity. Yeah. So there are many paid tools, which is very expensive, but OSEC is a very popular one, which is an open source, which can be implemented by any organization, be it small to medium to very large organizations as well. Again, these are all not just the recommendations, but these are all being implemented by most of the organizations as well, especially when the organizations wanted to do a test try before implementing some very comprehensive, very detailed tools, etc., outside the market. Okay, uh, many of the research institutes or universities are also adopting these tools to help the students or the academia space to how to kind of get an exposure in terms of these particular technologies, these particular tools, awareness, etc., and all that. Okay, I would strongly recommend that you can try these tools on your personal desktop, or if you have any systems that you have wanted to try this. Okay. Now, let's coming back to the some of the popular paid solutions, the tools that I'll call it as I mentioned, like Dark Antigena, which is basically a self-learning tool, and it's autonomously basically responds to threats and in real time. So that's something very important, right? That minimize the damage that's happening to the systems. Okay, and we have this CloudStrike Falcon, which we spoke about, which provides endpoint protection with AI-powered threat analytics. We also have the Splunk Enterprise Security, which is offering the advanced threat detection, and especially this Splunk is used in by the large organizations, especially the SOC, okay, Security Operations Centers, right? IBM QRadar, I think most of you know about this. So this again, the threat intelligence tool. Now with AI integrated, which can automate the incident detection and response. Of this tool, I repeatedly saying this many times. Darktrace is my most popular. I've seen Darktrace in action during the ransomware attack for one of the manufacturing client. Within seconds, it isolated the compromised devices, which prevented the malware from spreading. So this is a perfect example of how these tools can be a game changer for a security professional and for the organizations that is very cautious about the security. All right. Okay, so now coming back to the real-time threat monitoring. Here, what you see is the continuous networking, right? So continuous networking monitoring tool is critical, which is basically system. One second. Uh, I with the just interest of time, I would take another 5 to 10 minutes, if that is okay with everyone, because I just wanted to share a few of the things that can be really helpful for you to from an awareness perspective, and then we can take it up. I try to kind of stop by 4:15. Yeah, is that fine, everyone? Okay, I take silence as okay. Thank you. All right. So what I was talking about is the is a threat monitoring tool. Like for example, in this continuous monitoring tool, uh, as I mentioned, like rapid insight idea, which I mentioned earlier, idea. So which basically provides real time visibility across the network. And we also have in one of the project, okay, where I uh, I was part of it, like where we implemented the Insight IDR, which helped the retail client identify the unusual login attempts, okay, originating from the Tor network, okay, which has basically when I say retail, it's some of the it is an application like something like I will not like let's say Amazon or Flipkart. Okay, so that's so someone is trying to access the network through the Tor networks, and it was able to identify that immediately, and then which has help the team, help the organizations early detect those potential breach. Okay, so this is a kind of proactive, defensive AI, how it helps us the organizations. Right. All right. So now coming back to AI augmented socks. Okay. Again, here the automation plays an important role. So we have this, which is basically the most impactful contributions AI that brought to SOC. Okay. So think about this. Like for example, like analysts are very often buried under the repetitive, the tasks that they wanted to do. Like for example, low value tasks like sorting through thousands of alerts and generating incident reports, etc. And all that. So these tasks are very time consuming. Okay, so leaving the analyst with a lot of this little bandwidth that they have, rather than that they can focus more on value, generating the business value generating, right? So what can they do in those situations? So tools like IBM Resilient or Splunk, okay, Fathom, which can actually help the team to automate those manual driven activities by the analyst. Okay, so that's one of the thing how AI was helping the SOC team by implementing these automation tools. Okay, what does again to if you ask the question, what does this mean from a SOC team perspective? So it means like analysts can focus more basically on the complex investigations rather than just pulling the data, the backlogs and etc. from the reports, and then generating the putting the reports in Excel or other tools to do that. Rather than they can focus on the complex investigation, which are high critical, severe, etc., and all that, that can really significantly improve the incident response time and the strategies. Okay, and instead of wasting time on the routine operations. Okay, so AI is not removing the jobs of the operations team. Rather, it is helping the SOC team to improve their efficiency. At the same time, where the SOC team can really focus on the severe and critical incidents. Okay. All right. So again, coming back to the collaborative things, I would call it as just building the stronger defenses. Okay. So here, let me give an example, and then we'll move on. When one organization identified a phishing domain, so that particular information was shared across the ecosystems of that organization. Basically, what has happened is that protecting others from falling the victim. Okay, so it is one of the very important thing that how does an organization can share their experiences, share their approaches that they did in order to protect the system, so that the other organizations are much more alert on that space. So this collaborative approach not only strengthens the individual organization but also raises an awareness of overall cybersecurity standards, like sharing across in the in the ISACA portal or the best learning portals, or sharing with the NIST, so those things that can really out Gartner, for that example, or any of the research things. So it has not only, if something has been happening to the particular organization, is not only keeping to themselves but also collaborating with other organizations, sharing those best practices. So that really is important when you're talking about from the collaborative defense ecosystems, right? All right. So there are again tools like, it's called Threat Connect, which can really help in real-time threat intelligence here. Um, okay. So now, very important one, the role of machine learning in cybersecurity. Uh, Very simple. I keep it here. We have three types: learnings: supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement learning. So supervised learnings involves a training of a particular ML model with a labeled data. Okay. For instance, like say the data set of malware behaviors. Okay, can teach the system to identify similar patterns in new or unseen threats. Okay, it's 'cause some of the tools like Silence Protect use this method to protect and block the malicious activity. So we also have this it's unsupervised learning is the dark test that we spoke about, okay, for anomaly detection. And in reinforcement learning, we have this tool called Fortinet 40 AI, okay. So that is something which can really optimize the behavior or the strategies that can leverage and not only leverage but also enhance the security perspective. Okay, so in a recent project where I was involved, we used the supervised learning models to classify the malware families based on the behavior traits. Okay, so that system really achieved a 98% of detection accuracy, that has showcasing the power of ML in the enhancing security. Okay, so it all depends upon how and where and what type of model we need to use there. Okay. Okay, I see one question here. How can we make sure ML models will not be vulnerable? Okay, that's a good question. So how to ensure these ML models are not vulnerable? For this, we have to use this adversarial testing. Okay, so we call this we test the ML models against the adversarial input to identify the weakness. So to detect those Ramesh, so the tools that I would recommend is MITRE Atlas. Okay. Uh, so this MITRE Atlas, which can provide a framework to simulate the attacks on AI models. Okay. So uh, let me see if I can quickly share that. Uh, okay. So if you go to the Google and if you see this MITRE Atlas, so this tool has a defined set of frameworks. Like for example, if you see this, you know, full set of matrix. Okay, uh, so here you are seeing the reconnaissance, resource development, initial accesses, and all, etc., and all that. So this can, if you click on this particular thing, it can give you, which ML, what kind of tactics has been used. Okay, or for example, if I take, LLM prompt injection, right? So what are the mitigations that I can take care of it? Okay, what are the sub techniques that I use? What are the tactics that I can use here? Okay, so this is one way that you can use this adversarial testing using the Mitri Atlas. Okay, that can really help in terms of mitigating it. Okay, in terms of solving that. And second is the data integrity. I would say the ML models are only used as good as the data. So we use the A model IBM Watson Open Scale to detect those bias, and we also have to do this continuous monitoring as well. Once the tool is implemented doesn't mean that we are safe. We have to continuously monitor, we have to continuously improve, implement those based monitoring stuff, etc. All right. So okay, so this is the last one that I have here. One is the AI and quantum security. So as the quantum computing advances, it is basically poses a significant risk to the current encryption standards, as we spoke earlier. So many encryption algorithms that are basically rely on the mathematical, sequence solutions or the problems, right? So where the quantum computers could solve the exponential much faster than the classical systems. Okay, so what is happening is, to counter this particular AI quantum security, AI is basically predominantly playing a very important role combined with post quantum cryptography. Okay, so in this AI and quantum uh, quantum security, um, we use a tools called Isara. It's called Isara Radiate. Okay, so we use a tool called Isara Radiate, which are basically helping organizations to transition to quantum resistance algorithms. Okay, so what it means is like it's basically fit for the purpose. I would call it as, if I put it simple way. Also, AI is also assisting in identifying the vulnerabilities in the existing cryptography. Okay, which is basically ensuring the proactive approach to secure the systems that are more vulnerable or most sensitive to data, etc., and all that. Okay, yeah. So these are how the organizations are playing a very important role in terms of coming from the security AI quantum security perspective. Okay, now I have this one slide, and then we will go back to the last Q&A. How does the future proofing of the AI strategies within the AI is happening? I will call it as the three things. Keep it simple. Platforms like Vectra AI, which is enabling the proactive monitoring and early detection. That's where the adoption of AI threat detection is happening there. And the second one is the I would call it as the upskilling, right? So as I said, like IEEE coming up with a lot of new initiatives, new materials, courses, etc., and all that, which is very important. We have to upskill ourselves. And the third is that implement the continuous learning model. Okay, so Splunk machine learning toolkit is one thing which is continuously helps us to kind of continuously train the models based on the new data that it comes in. Okay, so that those are the few things that I would like to call upon, and happy to kind of take any questions, anything that you have at this moment. Anyone? Okay. Uh, Subbu sir has my contacts. Kavita has my contacts. So if there is any questions, feel free to share those with them. I'm happy to kind of respond for that. With that, thank you all for joining this webinar. And thanks to IEEE for giving me this opportunity. Uh, Kavita, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Subramanian, for sharing your valuable insights on artificial intelligence with us today. We appreciate the time you took to engage with our audience and address their questions. We hope you find this webinar informative, engaging, and helpful in understanding the applications and implications of artificial intelligence. To our audience, thank you for joining us for this interactive sessions. We hope you find the discussion informative and useful. Thanks, everyone. You may leave now.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks for the session.
Thank you.